This is Boxing Talk 8576. Shout out to the LDBC community. I posed a question yesterday asking, the boxing community, out of the 5 fighters I presented, which one was a real champion? I said Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko. And I wanted to know you guys' thoughts on who was the real champion. Now, the definition of a champion is a guy that is the lone champion on top of the division, and there are other guys on there that are the opposition. Say, for instance, he has to have every available alphabet belt as far as the WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF. And he has to have all the belts in his possession, and no one else in the division can have a belt. Otherwise, he's not a champion, he's just a title holder. So let's go through the list. We're going to start off with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather has never been an undisputed champion in any weight class. He has never held all the titles in any weight class. Now, he had a chance in this last and final chapter of his boxing career. After he beat Manny Pacquiao, he had the WBO, the WBA, and the WBC title. But Kell Brook had the IBF title. So that made Mayweather a unified champion, not a unified belt holder, not a champion. And that's the key word, champion. Now, after beating Manny Pacquiao, he had a chance to fight Kell Brook, but he chose to fight Andre Berto for his last fight. Now, that's his choice. But look, my guy over here, my son is practicing his basketball skills. But that was his choice to not fight Kell Brook. For whatever reason it was, that was his choice. But he was only a 75%, he was 25% away from being a champion. But he chose not to take that next step as a great fighter should. So Mayweather was never a champion. Now we're going to move to Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was never a champion in any weight division. He was a belt holder in every weight division he competed in, from 106 to 154. He had titles in those divisions, but he was never a champion. When they say Manny Pacquiao was an 8-time world champion, that is misleading the public, especially people that does not know enough about boxing to know that Manny Pacquiao was only a belt holder. And his last couple runs, he was the WBO welterweight champion a couple times, but he was never a champion. Now we're going to move on to Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. was a belt holder at 160. He had the IBF title, and at light heavyweight, he had 75% of the titles. Roy Jones never was a champion. Now, some people will say the WBO title at the time that Roy had all the other belts was not recognized. But I dispute that, because it was a guy in Poland by the name of Darius. I can't pronounce his last name, but it's like Michael Whistle, whatever his last name is. He had the WBO title at the time that Roy Jones was on his great run with the light heavyweight title. And he had actually 23 defenses with his WBO title, which to me confirms that it was a real title. He was actually successful in defending it 23 times. To me, that legitimized the title, man. When a guy does put that much work in, that to me legitimizes that WBO title at that time. Now, I was reading an article and it said that he wanted to fight Roy Jones. He actually pursued that fight for 6 years, and Roy Jones turned him down. And HBO actually did a poll and asked the fans who they want to see Roy Jones fight, and they picked that fight. And Roy Jones did not want to fight him because he did not want to go to Poland, to Germany, to fight for the WBO title, because he felt like he will get robbed. But see, that's my thing, man. You cannot, if you want to be a champion, man, you have to go where the challenges present themselves. Roy Jones cannot. He should have went and fought that guy. As great as you say you are, you should be able to win in India, Asia, China, the U.S. It doesn't matter where. Mars. If you're better than the guy, you should be able to beat the guy under any circumstances. And that's what the definition of a champion is. You suppose a world champion at that. You supposed to travel to where the challenges are, especially if a guy's putting that much work in, defending a WBO belt 23 times successfully. So the guy deserved the shot at being a champion, because he obviously wanted to be a champion because he pursued the fight. And HBO did a poll on the fight, and a lot of the fans chose that fight as the fight they wanted to see. But that's another one that was never a champion. Now we're going to go to Wladimir Klitschko, one of the Klitschko brothers. Now, his latest run of 10 years straight, he had the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO title, heavyweight title. His brother had a WBC title, and at the same time, he had all his belts. Kind of like the last 5 years of his run, him and his brother was cleaning out the division together. Now, they decided not to fight each other to become Wladimir Klitschko could have a chance to become the champion of the division. But when Vitaly retired, Romain Stavern and Chris Arreola fought for the vacant WBC title. After Romain Stavern beat Chris Arreola, Klitschko never pursued that fight. He could have fought him after that, and he didn't. But if he was occupied for some reason, after Romain Stavern fought Arreola, he fought Wilder. Wilder beat Romain Stavern to win a WBC title. Klitschko had a chance to fight Wilder, so that was the second time he had a chance to be a champion. He did not conduct himself as a guy that wanted to be champion. So he did not, I cannot call that man a champion. I don't care how many belts he had. He did not have all the belts that was needed to be a champion. So he was a unified belt holder. Now we're going to go to someone that was a real champion, and that was Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins was the undisputed middleweight champion. He had every belt. He had the IBF title, he had the WBC title, he had the WBA, he had the WBO. Yes, he did win the IBF middleweight title vacant because Roy Jones had moved up to 168. But nevertheless, he defended those titles multiple times. And he almost did it at light heavyweight. He had the WBO, the WBA, and the IBF, and he had the IBF, IBO, and the WBA, and he was challenging Kovalev for his belt, and he was trying to unify all the titles to become a light heavyweight champion, like he was as a middleweight champion. And Bernard Hopkins' legacy deserves way more than what we're giving him, because of the fact that he was a true champion, defending his title against multiple #1 contenders. That's what a champion does, and he did that. So when I talk about the best fighters of this era, I'm going to have to vault not Klitschko. I picked Klitschko, but I'm about to take Klitschko off that list because he was never a champion. I'm going to have to put Hopkins as the fighter of this era, because he conducted himself as a fighter of this era, being a champion and defending the middleweight title multiple times, 20 times, so over 20 times. So that's my outlook on it. I don't know how you guys rate or come up with your champion system, but that's my champion system. Having all the belts necessary to be a champion, and you standing alone at the top. You cannot have 3 belts and another guy got a belt and you calling yourself a champion. No, you have to go fight that guy to become a champion. This is Boxing Talk 8576. I'm out.